So I'm Baiba. I'm from Latvia. I'm 26 years old and I graduated from Design Academy Wellbeing department last year in the summer. And my approach when I start projects, it's really research based. So every topic I would take part in a project, I would start really researching in various directions and then kind of come to this conclusion, and then I would start having like this material approach as well. But it really starts with a lot of reading and looking into images and finding information about the topic. Well, when I was 9, my parents knew that I was just really active and I wanted to do a lot of things, and they actually started like they gave me a choice because I was also really interested in music and also interested in art. And then they sent me to art school and music school. And then after a while, like I was kind of like more leaning towards art. So I started art school, but I really didn't like it at one point. So my parents actually, they said to me like, okay, so if you go to the art school, we will give you like this pocket money, which for that time was like €5. And for me, it was like, okay, I can do it. But then I started to go and I started to like it again. So they never paid me, but it was just kind of like this one small thing, which when they said to me like, okay, you need to try again. And then because of that, I went to art and design high school, and then I went to design academy, and I'm here. I think the first week of my project, usually it's really, really messy because I have the theme and I just start to look into like various directions. So it can be connected to music, theater, books, scientific researches, like really different areas. And then I start kind of to gather the whole information, and then I group them and then go into those a bit more, and then I have this kind of whole picture, and from that point I kind of choose my direction. But first it's really important for me to kind of know as much as I can about the topic, and then I can choose my direction kind of more like a smaller direction. Yeah, so that project started from this kind of not fascination, but just curiosity because I was in well-being department, and it's kind of considered this really serious, not really colorful department. But I really liked color, and I was always working with color. But then my works were not like they didn't seem that serious from the outside, and the people who would do kind of the same researches but then present it in the color which was not that bright or like more white was taken more seriously, and I was really curious about why. So I started looking into this connection with purity and beauty and kind of the seriousness through the color white. So yeah, and then that's why the subject became the color white, and I wanted to know how it is connected with this purity and kind of this heavenly how do you say it, like this heavenly aspect of it through the history as well. So that's why I looked into this kind of myth about the Asian sculptures, which were not actually white. They were found white throughout the time because they were actually painted really in vivid colors. And so throughout the time, the colors went off. And when we found them, they were just a bit like this kind of green moss was on them. So people started to clean them. And then because of the look of the sculpture and the perfect kind of structure of them, like all the muscles and perfect bodies, people thought that also they should be represented in the color white because that's the most pure. And because of the structure of the bodies was so perfect and godlike, they thought that the color white would really highlight it. Oh, it's just, I think in general it was really not I kind of knew it, but it was more eye-opening the fact that people see colors more childish, that it's really not taken that serious, and I didn't really understand the connection to it. But then when I started reading into these kind of the sculpture things and how we also gather things around us, and that the cleanness is really white. And I also looked into the commercials of cleaning agents, how you would say them. So how it's really presented like, oh, this is so dirty, and then you wipe it off and it's brilliantly clean. Like this kind of need for us to keep everything really clean and hygienic, and that white is really like comes out of it, really like the main player. And as well that white is really hard to keep white and brilliant for a long period, and just the things people would do to actually keep it or to try to reach this whiteness in the society. Also, in the book I made, I looked into beauty standards and what ladies would do to reach this kind of clean skin, that they would bleach the skin, or they would, like back in the old days, they would also put this really toxic pigment on the face. And even though they would die really young, it would just be seen really noble and really aristocratic if you would have this color. So that all, like most of the information I read was really shocking for me. I can't really take out one specific thing which was the most revealing for me. Well, I started my book with the pigments of white. So also in paintings, or there was also a time in Hong Kong when there was this plague epidemic. So they used this white pigment to kind of show the plague. So what they would do, they would go through the city and take all the sick people or the dead bodies away, and then they would have specific teams when they cleaned all the kind of the places where the sickness was in. So to indicate the fact that the place was clean, that they would just paint it white with this pigment. So I think it's really from this history to show kind of, yeah, the cleanness, the kind of the nobility, or the richness, because back in the day, if you could afford the white pigment or a white textile, it means that you would have money. Also, in the time when the weddings were happening, of course, it has happened over the time a lot, but then when Queen Victoria in England got married, she kind of started this trend of having the white wedding dress, which showed the purity, but also her status in the society. Because at that time, it meant that if you would wear something white, you would be able to afford to clean it after, because it wasn't that popular to have the white gowns. Or so she started this trend as well. So it's really about, yeah, cleanness and the status, I think. I think I learned how to stop just during my graduation, because up to until then, whenever I would because I always also like to make books about all the things I find. I think it reaches a point when I need to say to myself, like, okay, you need to stop now, otherwise it can go like forever. I think I could still, because I said to myself that I really want to also have a materialization for the project. So I gave myself a period of time where, and the frame where I can research and make the book and have all these kind of various aspects of the color. And then I said to myself, okay, but you need to stop there and you need to also start focusing on the materialization of the project. Even though during the materialization I was still reading and looking up some information, but it was taking less time than I would give myself during the research period. So the idea for, and also the title Expired White, comes from that, because when I was researching and I found out about like the information about the white goods, so fridges, ovens, different appliances, that they were also made in the color white. I was just really curious how this whole consumerism works, and where do the things end up when we throw them out. And also because they're mainly made from plastics, and throughout the time the white plastic turns a bit yellow. So I was curious to show also the kind of the expiration date of the white and the aging of the white, and also the origin of the objects, because I find them really beautiful, and I kind of like to think that somebody already designed all the pieces, because when you open up like the shell of the keyboard, the other side shows a lot of these kind of small points and like these edges, and everything is designed in a way that it could be mass produced. And I just like to kind of be the person who takes them apart and then plays like a Lego game and shows, like, I'm collaborating with a lot of designers who have designed these pieces without them even knowing. And I'm showing the origin and the beauty of the objects, because I think I didn't want to kind of hide the origin of the pieces, and kind of show the fridge door can be used as something else after it's done being the fridge door. So that's why. I think it's switching, and it's a lot of projects about reusing or making new materials, or really like a lot of remelting plastics into new objects. I think it's quite nice that people are starting to think, becoming more cautious about these problems. But yeah, for me, I didn't want to make people guilty about the fact that they were throwing out things. I just wanted to show the fact that it's still possible to use it in another way. If it doesn't work as a shell of the vacuum cleaner, it can be used as something else. So I just wanted to show the potential, and I think it's nice that people are, like, designers are making people more curious about reusing materials in a way that it doesn't look that kind of crafty, because there is a border of like reusing and making it look really crafty, or like showing that the potential of the beauty of the material, of reusing the material. Well, the idea of the project is really to take the old and unwanted and then giving it a new function, and kind of make it again usable. And what I already started with Kazerne, because I was exhibiting there, and then we kind of started this initiative of people bringing their old appliances there, or unwanted cables or headphones and anything, and that I would then give a workshop and show how it's actually done. Because, well, that didn't happen because of all these craziness. But I think I would really like, that's why I like to do the project. I think I would just want to show people how it's done by them as well, and show the potential, and that they could also do it by themselves. So just collecting the things and then giving them to me, and giving the new function. It's just like this really, the aim is not for me to be alone in a studio or somewhere doing it on my own and then trying to like give it to somebody. But it's really just like having an audience which could understand the technique and the beauty of then reusing and making it their own as well. I hope it's gonna change, and I hope it's gonna change a bit the speed of how we are designing and making things and producing, because I think it's a lot of because I just reflect on the fact that I see a lot of things in the scrapyard, because whenever I would go there, even if it would be just a week in between the trip to the scrapyard, I would always find so much stuff there, and it would constantly come into the system and the trash. And I think it's just so many things we're making, and also the appliances are made in a way that they're gonna break in a few years, so you need to make more. Or like, okay, and there's this function, so it needs this, or you buy one thing. Like, it was interesting for me because I was doing this exhibition, and I had this podcast, and you could listen to it on headphones. So just like the small headphones with the thing you could plug into your phone, and I had it in my installation, and people were like, "Oh yeah, but I have a newest iPhone, so I can't even use it." And then at that point, I was like, "But okay, that's interesting." So I think everything is so fast and like developing so fast that we can't really keep up to it, and that it creates so much trash because it's going really fast in the development. And I don't necessarily think it's the most needed thing for us. Well, maybe I will collect more new material. I don't think the situation, like the pandemic situation, will necessarily change the way I materialize the things. I think it will change the available material I work with when I go back to the scrapyards and when I go back on the streets. Because now I can also, well, I also for me, because we are cleaning the house constantly, because that's one of the things we are most busy with. But also I see on the streets that people are throwing away a lot of things because they're doing like these general cleanups. So I see it as an opportunity for me to collect new materials.